What's good, YouTube? Here are my predictions for UFC 326. I am Jazz Loves MMA. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Luke Fernandez versus Rodolfo Bellato. Rodolfo Bellato is genuinely Alex Pereira without none of the physical aspects of what makes Pereira good. Doesn't have the power, size, reach, none of that makes Pereira so good and so difficult for people to fight. He doesn't really have anything. He has a pretty short reach, I think, for his size, and he is tough though. Like he seems like he's going to be chinny. He got hurt, I think, against Igor Peteria, which is an awful guy. That was in the UFC, awful fighter, and he was able to survive. He's taking good shots off Neville Sterling, who hasn't really had a finish in the UFC, but he's a hard hitter. And he had that weird moment against Paul Craig, upkicked, faked it. That was weird. But he is tough. He can get scrappy. That Jimmy Crute performance, I thought it was a draw. Some people thought it was a robbery. I thought that was a good draw. He showed decent striking, not really. Jimmy Crute's striking is awful. And he showed a big hole in his game, which is the offensive or the defensive grappling, which I think he has decent enough offensive grappling though. Well, Luke Fernandez got a nasty knockout on Dana White Contender Series, a nice 1-1-2 or 1-1 right hand, and slapped the guy, some random dude off Contender Series though. Not much to rate off that, but it shows good skill, I guess. And I think Luke Fernandez is going to probably win by decision. I can see him hurting Rodolfo Bellato early. Has a moment like the Hero Pateria fight, rocked, dropped. Oh, he's stumbling all over the place. Crazy round one. Round two, for Luke Fernandez, it's getting scrappy. Luke Fernandez maybe has the better moments. Round three, Bellato probably starts to win it. More experience. A little bit of a, you know, he's a bit of a cockroach. He kind of waits for people to gas. He was kind of doing that in the novel starting fight. I think round three he was starting to do better. So I think this is a fight where round three he's going to pick it up, but it's too late a little too late, and he's going to lose by decision. Maybe he gets knocked down the first round, but I think he has a decent enough chin and survivability to not. So the official pick is Luke Fernandez decision. Moving on to Young Lee versus Gaston Bolaños. Gaston Bolaños is Peruvian Ilia Topuria. If he was nothing like Ilia Topuria, he just looks just like him. Young Lee has a massive head. He fought Amir Hyder Amil, and he got KO'd I think in the first round with that like 30-piece combination, and that was kind of a bad look. But then he fought Daniel Santos, I think on short notice for Daniel Santos, and he made it was a tough fight for both of them. I think it was a split decision. Daniel Santos was pretty good. He KO'd the Korean McGregor guy who was actually supposed to fight Gaston Bolaños, and I rate Daniel Santos a little crafty decision against Daniel Santos isn't that bad of a loss compared to Gaston Bolaños, who got submitted by Quang Lee, who's not good at all. He got knocked out by Marcus McGee, not bad. I think he's moving up for this fight as well to bantamweight, so it's the second bantamweight Jung Yun Lee's had to fight, and I don't think Gaston Bolaños is gonna have the lighter man skill to beat Jung Yun Lee. He's not that good. Only win I think is Cortavius Romeus. That now he's like a small midget. That's what he should have done. Beat him by decision. So yeah, I think Jung Lee's gonna win a decision here. I don't think Jung Lee has the power to KO Gaston Bolaños, especially maybe his chin is now better at 145. So my pick is gonna be Jung Lee by 29-28, maybe decision. Moving on to Rafael Tobias versus Nergoje, Dr. Nergoje. Dr. He has this weird tick where he's just always touching his eye, and I think that's just gonna get him so much trouble. His grappling isn't that good. Got submitted by Henson Ribeiro. It's not a good loss. Lost to Salty Ball to give by Ezekiel Choke. That was an awful performance from Nergoje. I think Rafael Tobias is just gonna take advantage of the fact that this guy is a fat blob that's mid, and he's just always touching his eye. So I think Rafael Tobias, he got a good submission on the Contender Series. I don't even know if it was actually good. I don't remember too much, but got the rear naked, beat the guy clearly, and he has good grappling. And I think he's gonna either rock and drop Nergoje to a submission, or She's gonna take him down easy, like first minute sub, and just make a light work of him, get a good performance bonus coming off the contender series, gets a good debut win. Moving on to Sumer RG versus Jesus Aguilar. I'm gonna pick Jesus Aguilar. He can grapple. Sumer can barely. He did defend good take. Sumer did defend good takedowns off Mitch Raposo. Now it's pretty impressive. Rich Raposo is he's a decent wrestler. That was a split decision because DC was glazing his wrestling, but I think Jesus Aguilar is more of a threat on the feet than Mitch Raposo. He has better submissions, and I think it's gonna be a tricky fight for Sumo where he might get caught on a sub or something while defending a takedown or something, or he gets up from a takedown. Jesus Aguilar shoots or goes for the gilly, catches him, makes him tap in like round two, or maybe it's just a close competitive decision, split decision type stuff. That's what Sumo seems to have a lot of in his last couple of fights. He had decent performance against Borhaus, but Borhaus is pretty mid when he's just staring. And Jesus Aguilar has had issues against taller, lankier opponents like Rafael Estevan. But Estevan is a way bully grappler, so I saw why Jesus Aguilar lost that fight. That's to end off the early prelims. Moving on to the regular prelims. Cody Durden versus Niam Jargal. Niam Jargal was going to absolutely slime out Cody Durden. Cody Durden's last win was Matt Schnell, I think in 2024, 2025. That was a tricky fight for both. I think both were rocking and dropping each other that first round. Then Cody Durden got the gilly in round two. I just think Ian Jargal he's good enough to knock down Cody Durden and I think catch us up. Maybe round one, maybe round two. But Durden's chin just seems to get worse and worse. I don't know how he survived all those rounds against Joshua Van round 2 and 3. I think was insane. I don't know how you actually survive that. So I'm just gonna pick Niam Jargal by KO. I think he could do something similar to what Nascimento did. Cody Durden's good. I think it'll be tricky for a bit until Niam Jargal just finds a good big right hand or something that puts Cody Durden down, catches the back, and subs him in round one. I wouldn't. Maybe it'll be round two, but I think Cody Durden's just so passive now that Niam Jargal is just gonna catch him, and then maybe that'll be it. Maybe he goes out cold, but I think he'll catch a sub. So pick his Niam Jargal round one KO or two or submission. Moving on to featherweight, Ricky Tercios versus Alberto Montez. I just realized this fight was at featherweight. This is the second Ilya Arturo clone on the card, and he's a decent prospect. I think he's just gonna beat Ricky Tercios to a decision because Ricky Tercios is pretty mid. I think it's probably gonna be a 29-28. Ricky Tercios does make it close with people. So Paz is a decent prospect that he made it close with. Uh, he almost got Robert Jr. in a submission round one, so this might be tricky for Alberto Montez, but I think he'll beat him to a decision. Maybe he catches him in a sub in round two. Ricky Tercio shoots a stupid takedown. Maybe he gets up from a takedown. All of Montez's submissions come from like Doris's or front chokes. So I think he'll get either a good decision or a round two submission. Moving on to Dante Johnson versus Cody Brundage. Cody Brundage is like the most mid fighter of all time. He's not as bad. He's not like a Jose Medina who could never win a fight. He's able to beat the other mid guys, but just just does nothing. He's kind of like the new age, even worse Anthony Smith. And I think Dante Johnson, he should have probably finished Cedric Dubon's in round one. I just think he's going to be able to beat him here. Round one KO, maybe he finds a submission. I wouldn't be shocked if it goes to the second round because Cody Brundage is a good cockroach. He's able to survive a round one storm, make it a round two, like he did with Cam Rouse, and he was able to survive, make it tough. And I think he can do that here with Dante Johnson, who isn't tall and lanky and could give him issues like that. But Dante Johnson, former heavyweight, has power, has submission skill, as we saw against Cedric Dumas. And yeah, I think he's going to get the finish in round one here. Moving on to Cody Garbrandt versus Jan Long. This is the most underrated fight on this entire card. I don't care. If it wasn't for the main event, I'd probably be the most hyped for this fight. A lot of people are going with Cody Garbrandt, and I see why. Very fast. Everybody loves Cody. We all love Cody. 25-minute Cody, greatest fighter of all time. But he's so passive now. He's had good performances. He was piecing up Figgy in round one, got to the sub. He pieced up, dropped Barcelos in round one, kept it competitive round two and three, but he started to slow down so bad. And I think he's going to have a very similar performance against Xiao Long, but Xiao Long, I think, has a way better finishing potential than a Barcelos. And I think he's going to survive a round one storm from Cody. He has a chin. He's very gritty. He has defensive grappling. You know, he fought you. Yes, he fought you. You watching this? He fought you on that on a China card. I believe it was the Johnny Walker Zhang Ming Yang card. He fought you, who's a grappler, and he looked really good. He defended the takedowns of the grappling, and it was a split decision. I thought Xiao Long won that, but didn't go his way. And he is a slow starter, so I think that's where Cody Garber's going to capitalize, drop him around one. It's going to get scrappy. But Zhao Long built into fights, and I think he's going to finish him late round two or early round three. Just KOs Cody Garbrandt. Everyone's sad. People are like, "Oh man, look what he did in the table round one, though." And yeah, but you're going to see one of the most exciting prospects. Well, no, he's not really a prospect because he is 1-2 in the UFC technically. The only two losses are like split decisions. You could argue he won, but you're gonna see one of the most violent, fun fighters ever on this card. Jiao Long, watch out. This is Jiao Long Mafia is right here. Uh, when he points down the Max Holloway point down, he's not like these other guys who clinch or just stare at range. He brawls. He literally will sit in the pocket and just spam elbows for like a whole 30 seconds. So the pick is Jiao Long, round two KO. Oh wow, that's a prelim. So wow, I keep forgetting. Moving on to Gregory Rodriguez versus Bruno Ferreira. This is another fight where a lot of people are picking Gregor Rodriguez, but even though this is a rematch, I'm going with Bruno Ferreira. I think this is still a very similar fight. Both have gotten better. Both have grown. And maybe you could argue Gregor Rodriguez has had he's looked better in his last couple of fights since the past, and he's shown more improvements. But Bruno Ferreira, this is still a very similar matchup, and I think Bruno Ferreira is gonna knock him out. Gregor Rodriguez still stalks forward. He's still chinny. His chin still sits there for Bruno Ferreira to catch. And I saw good things against Vittori. Not being able to finish Vittori is not bad. No one's finished Vittori. So he's shown better. He's shown good jiu-jitsu in his last couple of fights. So I don't think that's going to be a factor here. I don't think really either are going to get grappling off on each other. But I see a quick round one finish for Bruno Ferreira. And he's just a faster guy. He has very good counters. I think it's just going to be very similar to the first fight. Moving on to Drew Dober versus Michael Johnson. This is a stylistic fight where Michael Johnson should win. Should just piece up, knock out Drew Dober in probably one round. But Drew Dober, I think he's going to survive, man. It's been a bad luck for Drew Dober, the fact that he got dropped and was like getting outstruck by Prepelic. But Prepelic is pretty tough. He doesn't really get finished early a lot, other than the BSD fight. But even then, that was taken to like I think like a mid round two finish. And I think even though Michael Johnson looked good in his last three, he couldn't finish Zellhuber, and well, you could say the same that like Esteban Ribovic couldn't even finish him either. But Michael Johnson, I think he's gonna drop Drew Dober round one, show him levels. We're all gonna be like, yeah, this is the Michael Johnson we know. But Drew Dober's gonna see black, man. He's gonna realize who he's fighting, and he's gonna KO this dude. He's gonna KO Michael Johnson fluke in round two, catches him with a big left hand, sends him out, and yeah, pick is Drew Dober in round two KO. Moving on to the feature fight, this card. Rob Font versus Rob Rosas Jr. I think Rob Font is just going to defend the grappling off Rob Rosas Jr. Rob is really overrated. I don't think people really rate him, but he's really mid compared to what the UFC, I think, believes he is. He had a tough fight with Vince Morales, who had just lost before that to Elijah Smith. You could argue, I think that fight on damage, maybe Vince Morales even won it. Then Rob Rosas had that tough fight with Eric Lang. Scrappy fight. Not really like a scrap, but like it was pretty competitive for Raul. Couldn't finish him, and it was at this fear card. He just got, I think he had round one where he just got grappled in round two and three. It was pretty tricky on the feet for him. And then he fought Ricky Tercios, and he almost subbed it. Obviously, Rafa's not going to do the same, but I think he's going to be able to defend the grappling. He's just going to piece up Raul Rosas Jr. He got grappled by G Matsumoto, but he got up. You could argue G Matsumoto isn't the grappler that Raul Ruiz Jr. is, but he's way more dangerous on the feet, way more of a threat on the feet to set up those takedowns. And Raul Ruiz Jr. just has nothing on the feet for Rob Font. In stand up, Rob Font's just gonna outclass him, pick him off the jab, maybe get a finish late, but I'm gonna pick Rob Font by decision. Co-main event: Kyle Barajo versus Rainer de Ritter. You know, I kind of want to pick Rainer de Ritter. He looks in shape now. Um, he's probably healthy. He seems healthy. You know, the way he's been talking about his previous fight to now. Seems like he's in shape. He's ready and he's in form. I don't think he's gonna gas out like he did against Brendan Allen. But he's fighting someone who's a better striker than Brendan Allen, and I think has better grappling than Brendan Allen as well. So Kyle Barajo, you know, karate stance. That's the style that gave Rainer de Ritter issues with Robert Whitaker. Obviously, I think Robert Whitaker is probably better than Kyle, but he's a little washed now. But Kyle is still good. Like he made it so much competitive with Imavov in round 2 and 3, or round 3 and 5. I mean, even though the judges gave two judges gave 5-0 Imavov, you know, they were in France. But I think stylistically, Kyle is going to be able to pick up off the jab. I don't see Rainer the Ritter getting a takedown here. I know Kyle's had pretty bad performances in the grappling before, you know, with Habus Magomedov and even Petrosian. But I think he's just going to be able to pick apart the jab, and I'll strike him over 3. I think he's going to have a one tricky round, maybe round 1 or 2. Rainer de Ritter, you know, makes it really tricky for him, but he's just going to pick up the pace and beat him by like 29-20 decision. Kyle trains with fighting nerds, obviously. Paul Armour, all of them have come back since their loss. But he also trains with Carlos Pratas, who can mimic what Rainer de Ritter does with the long, lanky style, big knees up the middle. I think that's what is perfect for Kyle to have here. Is Pratas like mimicking the knees in training. I think that's what's really going to help him here, having someone like that to help prep for Rainer de Ritter. So I'm leaning Kyle Barajo 29-28 decision win. The main event: Max Holloway versus Charles Olivera. You know, since this fight got booked, I thought Max is just going to speed mog him. He's a way better defensive fighter. He's good on the back foot. You know, the way he did Poirier, nobody's really done that to Poirier. Knocked him down like 3 times, I think, in that fight, or at least hurt him like 4 times. And I think I was thinking he's just going to show him levels, and he's going to be so much faster than Charles. Charles was getting tagged up by Gamron. That was an awful look for me. Even as a Charles fan, I love Charles so much, and that was just a really bad look. If I'm going to pick Charles to win, Max is just so much faster, way much better on the feet. He's looked amazing in his last 2 lightweight fights. I mean, the Justin Gaethje's performance was literally insane. But I think Charles has a lot that can cause Max Holloway issues. I think he's going to pressure him. And on the back foot, I don't think Max Holloway has as much pop. I know he knocked out TKZ on the back foot, but I don't think with the pressure that Charles Oliveira is going to be putting, I don't think he's just going to knock out Charles like that. Charles has probably a way better chin, he's not going to get flatlined by that. But I can see him getting dropped in round 1. And I see this being very similar to the Poirier fight for Charles, you know, where he gets hurt in round 1, dropped, rocked all over the place. More like Max Holloway showing levels. This is what we all expect. We're all thinking Max Holloway is going to finish him in the next round. But then I think Charles Oliveira is going to just out-grapple him. Max Holloway has a face of grappler like Charles. He's fought Volk, who's a very good wrestler, you know, but he doesn't have the size or the power on the feet to cause issues, and he doesn't have the jiu-jitsu that Charles has to get a takedown that latch up the back, maybe. You know, so I think Charles is gonna just be able to out-grab him against defense, especially. We saw that against Ilya. I know it's Ilya who even reversed Charles, but Charles is still an amazing grappler. I think he's gonna be able to. If he takes on Max, he's gonna be able to get the back. And on the feet, you know, Max has only gotten knocked down recently from these big looping shots, and that's what Charles can do amazingly. You know, the right hand the left hook that dropped Chandler, that was a big looping shot. And I think he can do a looping right hand on the tempo of Max and rock him, maybe even drop him, and then get on the back and find the submission. But I wouldn't be shocked at like a Max early finish, maybe even late, like round 3 or round 4. But I'd probably be picking Max Holloway round 2 KO right now if I hadn't thought about this fight. You know, maybe biasly for Charles, but I'm leaning Charles. I think he's gonna be able to pressure well. I think if he gets in the clinch, his knees are gonna be amazing here. I think his elbows are going to be amazing here. If he's able to elbow and open up cuts on Max, he has really bad scar tissue. I think he's going to be able to cut it up with elbows, maybe knees off the break. That was stuff that Poirier was able to catch Max with, even in the trilogy. So yeah, but at the end of the day, I guess we find out that in there. So these are my predictions for UFC 326. Let me know your thoughts down below, and hope you guys all enjoy the fights. Peace. Chaz loves MMA.